What does it tell us if one of the leaders in the regenerative space, not only in terms of operations, scale, highly diversification, mostly vertically integrated, and probably one of the biggest pasture-raised and slaughtered companies in the US? What does it tell us when one of the leaders in the space, who has been here for more than 25 years, is barely making any money? What does it teach us? Not that he's complaining, they're doing fine. 180 FTEs, he's able to pay the bills, but they're just making it with large operational loans every season. What does it tell us about the sector now? What does it tell us about new people wanting to get into the space? And what does it tell us about the incredible unfairness built into the highly chemical, fossil fuel extractive agriculture system? Big questions in this interview of today. I hope you enjoy it and hope it gives you some food for thought and energizes you even further to get to work on the transitions we need. This is the Investing in Regenerative Agriculture and Food podcast, Investing as if the planet mattered, where we talk to the pioneers in the regenerative food and agriculture space to learn more on how to put our money to work to regenerate soil, people, local communities, and ecosystems while making an appropriate and fair return. Why my focus on soil and regeneration? Because so many of the pressing issues we face today have their roots in how we treat our land and our sea, grow our food, what we eat, where and consume. And it's time that we as investors, big and small, and consumers start paying much more attention to the dirt/soil underneath our feet. To make it easy for fans to support our work, we launched our membership community, and so many of you have joined us as a member. Thank you. If our work created value for you, and if you have the means, and only if you have the means, consider joining us. Find out more on gumroad.com/investing-in-regen-ag. That is gumroad.com/investing-in-regen-ag, or find the link below. Welcome to another episode, today with Will Harris. Welcome, Will.
I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
And for anybody, of course, we'll link things below, but for anybody that Will Harris and White Oak Pastures rings a bell but doesn't really know where the bell is hanging, what is your normal go-to intro? Like if you're, I don't know how often that happens, but if somebody approaches you somewhere in maybe you're traveling to the capital, which you do sometimes, and somebody asks, like, what do you do? Who are you? What brings you here? What is your normal go-to answer?
I am Will Harris. My farm is White Oak Pastures in Bluffton, Georgia. We pasture-raise cows, hogs, sheep, goats, rabbits, as well as 5 species of poultry, an organic vegetable garden, a number of other small little ancillary businesses, bees, eggs, such as that. I'm the 4th generation of my family to run the farm. I'm aided by my 2 daughters and their spouses, who are the 5th generation, and they have 5 children who are the 6th generation. They're still babies, but they're here. So,
wow! So it's a family enterprise. Absolutely, this is not a small, and for US standards, it's not small at all. So just to give us a sense of size, and also as this is an audio medium, obviously, try to bring us visually to what do you see if you would open the windows behind you? What does the landscape look like in and around on top of White Oak Pastures?
We are coastal plains. We get about 52 inches of rain a year, so it's very, very good vegetative growing place. I should say, I just talked about the family. We've got 180 employees who are like family. It's throughout the 4 generations, including myself, it was a family-run business. It's still a family-owned business, but we've got some very senior managers here who are very important to running the business. The whole farm, 3,200 acres of owned and leased land here, plus an additional 1,500 or so acres of solar arrays that are near here that we do not own, is in grass, probably a 5-acre garden where we raise vegetables. It's not in grass. But the maintenance of our ecosystem through our grasslands is very important to us.
And literally with the solar arrays and of course, especially with the grass, you're turning sunlight into something we can eat or use. The 180 employees definitely is impressive. That hasn't always been the case. I think when you took over, just to give us an understanding of transition, how many were there at the time? And so just to give us an idea of change.
I graduated from the University of Georgia in 1976. And at that time, my father was running the farm. He had 3 or 4, maybe 5, probably 4, or normally employees, full-time employees. I ran the farm in a similar manner for about 20 years. In the mid-90s, I started changing the farm from just a producer of calves for the industrial American market to something more vertically integrated. And at that time, started adding employees. We're up to about 180 now. I hope that's the most we ever have. The goal is not to see how big we can get, but that's where we are today.
Why do you say that's? I hope that's the max.
I hope that's the max. We're the largest employer in this county. And then it's an economically impoverished county. So we think we make a very good contribution, but the goal here is not to see how much we can contribute to the county's economy. The goal here is to have a well-rounded, vertically integrated food production system.
And how far are you off from that goal? Like you say, well-rounded, 180 feels like a good number, and I hope it doesn't get much more than that, because I can imagine, I mean, it's amazing to have to provide jobs for so many people, but at the same time, there are also many people headaches coming with that. Do you feel like you're getting there, or maybe already arrived in terms of a well-rounded operation?
Well, I think we're there in all aspects other than profitability. We have been, when I started making the change, I had no debt, and the business was consistently profitable. It wasn't a big business, $1 million, $2 million a year, but it was consistently profitable. We took all those risks and made a lot of investments, and had some profitable years. But in recent years, we've been far less profitable.
And
So
why is that?
We're working to improve that situation.
And why have you been less profitable over the last years, even though there seems to have been a boom in direct sales, etc.? Has it been on the investment side, or what explains that?
No, I don't think there's been a big boom in direct sales. I don't believe that. There's been when I entered the market, I sold grass-fed beef to Whole Foods Market, Publix, and some others. I was the first. I sold Whole Foods Market the first grass-fed beef that they bought and marketed as American grass-fed beef. And it was good business for us for a long time. As they found other cheaper sources of imported grass-fed beef, we were either displaced or had to lower our prices to the point that it was not profitable for me anymore. And we ceased to do business with Whole Foods December 31st of this past year. So we went from a year or so, more than that really, of doing not profitable business with them to not doing business with them. It can cause tremendous adjustment to
to replace that.
Yeah.
And so now, working to improve profitability, where are the areas to improve, or what are the areas you're taking on this year and in the short term?
Well, fortunately, during the pandemic, we discovered direct-to-consumer marketing. We had added a online ship via FedEx or UPS direct-to-consumer function of our business. we never had done much with it. We sell about 20 something million dollars worth of product a year, probably 24, I think, maybe 22 in that range. And we were up to maybe, I don't know, $1.5 million direct to consumer, and it wasn't moving. During the pandemic, it just went absolutely bonkers, and we couldn't keep up with it. And that opened our eyes to the fact that there's another way of moving our product other than through wholesalers. And that's a good, and we believe that we can probably sell enough product direct to consumer through online to take care of the bulk of our financial needs. We do value the business we get from customers like Publix, supermarkets, and others to.
What triggered you to set up that direct to consumer line in the first place? If it was going okay through other channels, and also when you set it up, it wasn't really moving. Luckily, you did. At least you had the minimum expertise to ride the wave of the COVID shutdowns, etc. But what made you set it up in the first place? If it didn't seem super interesting.
It was a project that my middle daughter, I have 3 daughters, 2 of which work here. When my middle daughter came back, she needed something to do. So she set that up. And it was, again, just not real efficacious in terms of the impact on the company. Just didn't do much. But she did set it up.
And then it came. And then it arrived. Yeah.
And then when the COVID pandemic panic hit, it was there for us. And we went from, I don't know, $1 million, $2 million to 6 or so million. And now we hope this year we'll do 12 or 15 million, which is about half what we need to do. But it's good. It really helps move away from being so focused on wholesale.
And what is needed, or what do you see to double that? Is it a lot more online marketing? Is it on the distribution side? Like, do you need to do a lot on the farm to be able to cater and to deliver to direct to consumer, or is it also relatively simple to compare to the wholesale ones?
I don't know how that's going to look. We know we need more of direct to consumer volume, and I think this will give us that. We probably need to be involved with other wholesalers to move excess quantities of various products seasonally. So I don't really know how that'll look as it evolves.
And the debt you took on, because you said we weren't in debt when we started this transition, and we've made many investments. What was the main? I think I've read a number of places. Of course, the processing you brought on farm, like all these things are extremely expensive. Is there any of those investments? I'm getting to a question that you regret, like you think, oh, it would have been nice to actually not have made that investment, or were they all necessary to bring you where you are now?
Oh yeah, make no mistake. We made some investments that did not work. Our poultry business is not profitable for us. We continue to stay in, or have continued to stay in, although we have downsized it. We're going to probably take some of our poultry slaughter and convert it over into more red meat slaughter.
Which is interesting because sort of the move, it seems from the outside, I'm not in the US, but there's been a big push from the claimed health benefits away from red meat into white meat. And you're saying we're actually, for our farm, it makes more sense to focus on the red meat.
Yeah, I think so. I think that the push against red meat has not caught traction the way that the people who were making that push wanted to. And red meat, by most I'm going to say most sophisticated consumers is no longer considered to be a negative for the environment and a negative on health. I think red meat raised properly is good for the environment and good for people's health. And fortunately, a lot of other people believe that as well.
Have you benefited from, we had Mariko Torbeck of Qantas, or then she wasn't at Qantas anymore, but one of the writers of that LCA, the life cycle assessment, that put you, I'm not saying on the map, but definitely helped. Has that helped at all? There's nice infographics showing that meat raised properly could be a carbon store. And we discussed extensively in that interview why LCAs don't make too much sense in this case, because they didn't take soil carbon into consideration. But it has that push of Qantas, and I think General Mills was part of that as well. Has that helped, or was there anyway a big understream, let's say, of people that found you because they have done their research and know better?
Well, I think that the LCA from Qantas was beneficial for us in that it showed what it showed with regard to carbon. I don't know that it's responsible for the. I don't know quantitatively how much of our acceptance it's responsible for, but some, to be sure.
And have you seen lately, I don't know, maybe it's just in our bubble, but let's sort of the craze and the whole wave of meat alternatives and the investments in that space and very loud voices against animal protein, they seem to be losing steam. Do you see that as well? I mean, you're definitely outside many bubbles as you are farming, but do you see that as well in the conversations you're in, that it seems to be losing a bit of steam, this whole anti-animal protein, I would say almost a war or animal protein push, definitely?
Well, I mean, I see what comes across my computer screen. I read the news, and it does seem that it's losing steam. Probably should. I mean, I am not an anti-meat person. I mean, I respect people's right to choose what they want to eat. How it's produced. I resent it when lies are told about how food is produced. I don't know what it takes to produce alternative meats. I have no idea. I do know what it takes to produce industrial commodity meat and my meat, and it's very different. And I do resent it when the anti-meat people dump me into the pot with the industrial.
That's probably the most annoying piece. Yeah. Like you're thrown into the same bucket as everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's intentional. I mean, they my numbers speak for themselves. We do a really good job environmentally. Anybody who visits my farm recognizes that. I mean, you don't need a scientific study. You can look and say, this really looks good, and I can go anywhere I want to, and it looks fine. It looks good. I think that it's good that people visit and look and see for themselves, and the Qantas work is good for the people who can't do that. They can look and see that there is a difference.
And I think you've invited a few of the loudest voices in the anti-meat campaign to visit. Have they ever, what do you say, taking the glove? I don't know if that's a translation, but let's say the invitation and come as well, or not?
No, the people who are anti-meat don't want to come here. I mean, they simply don't want to come here, understandably. For the same reason that I invite them here, they don't want to come here. It would not be good for their argument. That's not surprising. They want to take you to a place that is horrible animal welfare, horrible environmental impact, and I get it, but they don't want to come here. I literally have built lodging here on the farm to accommodate people to come here, and we've hired people. Part of the 180 people that we've got hired here, their job is to educate and show and demonstrate what we do here because we are proud of it. And we do think that having visitors here, understanding what we do, understanding our production model is beneficial for us.
And how many people come through the farm, let's say, on a given year and on tours, etc.? Is that in the thousands, in the hundreds, more or less? Do you have any idea?
We should keep up with that better. I'm sure it's thousands. It's not tens of thousands. We had a holiday weekend here this weekend. We probably fed more people than we should have fed. People having to wait too long to get their food. We are very, very remote, isolated. This county has shrunk in population every census since 1900. It's a declining, but we're on a major highway, so people come through and they've learned they can stop here, and they do, and it's good for our business.
And imagine we bring a group of investors, both investing their own money, but also pension fund money and institutional capital, like insurance companies and banks, etc. And they're on the farm tour. And of course, we're not giving them investment advice, but what would be your main message as they're leaving the farm to them, people that are in charge of unimaginable resources on the money side, not the other resources, not sunlight, water, biodiversity, etc. But what would be your main message to a large group of financial people interested in this space, like absolutely getting the importance of soil and all of that, but then how do they apply it in their work? And what would be your main takeaway for them?
I would like for them to see and understand the ecological benefit of this food production model. And I'm not really looking for, even though we're struggling a little bit financially now, I'm not looking for investments. We're not out calling for that kind of funding. We own 100% of this business. We operate on borrowed money, but I don't have any trouble borrowing money. I have trouble paying it back. But I just like them to see that this production model is as near as to the Garden of Eden as you're going to find.
And then when they ask, why do you have trouble paying back the loans, as an investor, they might get just a bit nervous with that. What is your answer to that? And how do you respond to that?
Of course, they should be nervous with that. And the answer I have is that we pay our bills. We don't leave, what's the term here?
Externalities. Rubbish, waste.
Thank you for the word. The externalities. When the rainfall, 52 inches of rain we get here, we absorb it for the most part. It doesn't go rushing down full of chemicals and topsoil to the Gulf of Mexico to the Atlantic Ocean. So and on and on and on. We don't use pesticides, that stay in the environment. There's just many things that we do that I think is beneficial to the environment, and many things that we don't do I think is harmful to the environment that are done commonly in commodity industrial food production, and it lowers our return to investors. It's just as simple as that. If you're going to try to exploit the system, you leave unpaid bills.
And at some point, it will come back and bite you.
At some point, I think we're here.
What makes you say that?
Pick up the paper. Global warming. Pesticides everywhere. It's just a number of different places, I think, where these abusive behaviors that we've adapted for food production has come home to haunt us.
And is it different? Do you feel like we're at that tipping point where the attention is changing? Maybe even some movements in politics are changing. Do you feel that, or are we still not there yet?
I think we're not there yet.
Because you've been in Washington recently, and with the Regenerate America campaign, we had Finian on not so long ago. I will definitely link that below. What is your feeling with the political side on these massive issues: climate change, pesticide, health of all of us and our children? Is there the sense of urgency you feel?
No. I think there's still a lot of money in politics, a lot of big food, big ag, big tech influence that talks louder than we consumers talk. So I don't think we're nearly there yet.
And what needs to happen?
Well, what needs to happen is that the consumer voice needs to be louder, but I don't think it will be for during my lifetime.
Are you pessimistic or optimistic?
I think I'm realistic. I think that things will get worse and worse until they get bad enough that we make adjustments. And when we make adjustments, there will be losers. There will be downsides. And I don't think there's any getting away from that. Don't worry about the earth. The earth will be fine. The earth will be fine. It'll be, it'll change and evolve and correct itself. The human race may not be so fine. I don't think we'll be extinct, but there'll be a lot of suffering.
And do you see a role for that finance industry, as we can call it, which has been mostly extractive, but apart, you are interacting with that through a bank or banks, where you're loaning money. Do you see a role for money to speed up your transition? You say, I don't necessarily want to be bigger, but of course you're doing the solar piece as well. Like, do you see a role for that, or you say, okay, we've reached a good size, we need to pay down our debts, get more profitable, and then it's okay, and then repeat maybe somewhere else, or have other people repeat it elsewhere?
Well, I think that the model that we have implemented here can be replicated over and over and over, similarly, not exactly, but similarly. There doesn't be another White Oak Pastures in every county in the United States of America. It needs to fit the environment, but there should be money available for that. There are a lot of people that want to eat cheap food. A lot of people that need to eat cheap food, and I'm not critical of people in that need. So I want to feed them. I want to feed as many as can in a regenerative manner, and in time see where it goes. But right now we're still in this really incredibly large, incredibly damaging food production system, and we are a very, very tiny little microbes.
And you seem, huge in the regenerative space. If you see 180 FTEs and of course the size, but yet it's easy to forget the size we're in, or the size of the ocean we're swimming in. Do you see that happening, that people come to White Oak Pastures and get trained or work a number of years and then go somewhere else to start their version in their context? Is it something that you've been a launch pad or like a starting place for, or breeding ground for regenerative talent?
That's a very good question. A little bit hard to answer. So we do have an internship program that has been, I think, wildly successful. We only accept 6 per quarter, 4 times a year, so 24 a year, which I think is a lot.
But for an operation to like on 180 people, that's a big chunk of interns that take a lot of time. Yeah.
But we don't, and then most of them come here, or most of them are fairly young, not all, but most are fairly young and really excited about, most of them have got a skill set we don't take a lot of kids. They're not 18, 19 years old. Most of them are 25, 35, 45 years old, and excited about doing things differently. They come here to learn. I think they do learn. And then very few of them seem to find the financing they need to go on with this. We wound up hiring a lot of them. A lot of my employees are former interns. One or two have gone on and farmed elsewhere and done well. A lot of them have gone on to intern another place and another place and another place. And I hope they will find the opportunity to get traction and do well. But it's not the way they envision it, and they would want it to be. They don't come here, learn how to do it, and then go find a place. Bam! It's not like that.
And you see, financing is the big bottleneck there.
Oh yeah, the financing is the bottleneck. Yeah.
And would you, let's say, I love to ask this question at some point, but this seems like the right moment. Let's say you had a significant amount of money, $1 billion, I usually say. With disinflation rates, I might have to say 10, but let's say a lot of money. Would you envision you investing in them after they've been interning? Of course, picking the ones you're very happy with, but almost as an investor to give them that launch pad. Also as an investment, is that something you played with, thought about, dreamed of?
Well, and would I love to see that done? The answer is yes. If I was charged with maximizing the return on that investment, the answer would be no.
No, I would say, sorry, to give a bit of background, it definitely had to be an investment, but it could be extremely long-term and for returns that are fair, context-specific, etc. So we're definitely not looking for the 20x. But I was more wondering, like, are these, according to you, who is definitely on the ground and has an eye for this, are these investable, in some cases, investable individuals that are just missed by the system?
I think that the question becomes, what does that return need to look like? If it's normal percentage return on investment, we can't compete. We cannot compete. White Oak Pastures here, we could argue about these numbers, but I think we've got about $30 million in assets and about 20 million of it is equity. And we're break-even business. And I think we're pretty damn good at what we do. But despite having $20 million in equity, it's very break-evenish. And we struggle to borrow enough money to operate on. That should not be the case, but it is, because the return is what it is. I mean, there's no arguing with these professional money people. They know what they can get elsewhere. So I think that probably the value is the land. That's the value. To acquire the land and to improve the land. And probably there needs to be some established relationship regarding the person who furnishes the money will wind up owning the land, because that's the asset. And the person who's doing the work and managing the land winds up living a comfortable life. And so that it's got to be something like that. And there aren't many investors long term enough to really set that up and make it work.
Mm-hmm.
In my experience.
And what if you would be one of those? So let's rephrase the question again. You're at $1 billion, but in this case, would you focus on land investments, or because you said if you would maximize return, but also if we would maximize impact, like looking at the food and agriculture space at large, would you focus on land, or would you focus on the branding side, or maybe the distribution side? Like, what are super relevant places that you would put money to work in this regenerative transition? Or maybe technology, or maybe consumer awareness. I'm not sure that we could call that an investment, but what would you focus on?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's got all the infrastructure's got to be built up. I mean, to produce it is what I'm focused on right now. That's what I do. Delivering it to people who are willing to pay for it. They're able to pay for it and willing to pay for it is yet another task. I tell people a lot that we start out. If you've got a person who has the desire, like I was 25 years ago, maybe 30 years ago now, the desire to learn how to raise food in this way, in this sustainable, what I consider to be beautiful food production system, then you figure out how to do it. And you're standing at the bottom of this hill. In my case, I was almost 40 years old. I've been farming very industrially all my life, learned how from my father, who farmed very industrially all his life, and the University of Georgia that taught industrial agriculture. So, I had this desire and struggled up this steep learning curve to figure out how to raise, in that era, grass-fed beef only, later added other things, successfully, and figured it out. Trial and error, figured it out. When I got to the top of that hill, I realized that, I can't just produce it. I've got to make it monetizable. We've got to get it, in my case, with animals, get them slaughtered and cut up to market. So I climbed another very steep learning curve. And when I got to the top of that, I said, well, this is good. I now know, but to actually get the money out of them, get it monetized is another thing. And I was very fortunate at that era that the Whole Foods market opportunity presented itself. So we were able to do that for a long time, and it got us where we needed to be. When that went away, I had to figure it out again. So it's not just one of the problems is it's not just a clean lane to get where you need to be. It's fraught with changing the landscape.
And you must be approached constantly by people that want to sell your ecosystem services. Let's call them in the big basket. Have you done so? Have you, like on the soil carbon piece and other pieces? Because that should, in theory at least, make that price more fair, as you being compensated for ecosystem services or for the non-externalities you created, the non-waste. Have you done so? And if not, why not?
No, I have not done so. And it's exciting and scary. So far, I think there's a lot more money in how to measure carbon than how to sequester carbon. And I figure it's going to remain that way. There seems to be constant, endless battles between technical groups on how to measure the carbon. And, you've got to measure it. There's got to be some, if we're going to monetize it, there's got to be measured. But it's not about just measuring, it's about bringing the carbon down, taking it out of the atmosphere, which there's too much of it and it's doing harm, getting in the soil where it needs to be organic matter to support microbial life and hold moisture, et cetera, things carbon's supposed to do. So, there's more money in measuring carbon than there is in building carbon. And I don't know if that'll get changed or not. I hope so, but I'm not sure it will. I'm not sure that some of this confusion may not be intentional. And, somebody like Mr. Bill Gates or one of the other technocrats will create a device that sucks carbon out of the air and puts it in a little block and buries it, in the sea or whatever. And that's not what's supposed to happen. We don't just need the carbon out of the atmosphere. We need the carbon in the soil where it can work. But, that may be too inconvenient.
And are you, do you see carbon as the so many other questions. But do you see carbon as the best, let's say, candidate for getting more money on the farm, basically? Or is there's discussion on water, of course. You mentioned runoff already, biodiversity, which seems exciting, but even less developed. Do you see carbon as the best candidate at the moment, or maybe something we're completely missing?
Well, I mean, you can't say this one is best. So there are the cycles of nature. And the
Yeah, but I mean
cycles
the
of
one
nature.
that you see most likely that brings some real cash to the door, or none of them honestly are moving at all.
Well, so certainly carbon is more discussed than anything else. So I guess it's the most likely candidate. But the cycles of nature are the carbon cycle we're talking about now, the water cycle, the mineral cycle, the energy cycle, the microbial cycle, probably other cycles that we don't that are not so nearly as much discussed. And all of those cycles need to be working together to generate this abundance. That's what nature's all about. And we've broken that up. Reductive farming is reductive land management has broken those things apart so that now we produce probably more per acre than we should, but all the carbon goes up. So and on and on.
And in the area around you, you mentioned you're by far the biggest employer in the county, and have others followed suit, or are you still quote unquote considered the crazy one that went off the normal script? Like how have your neighbors reacted over the years, and are they following? Are they maybe are you processing also with them, for them, or how's the relationship with the community?
No, we have not. Sadly, we have not changed agriculture in Southwest Georgia. It was my hope along the way that we would have more impact along those lines than we have had. And my friends and neighbors and relatives who farm are good people. They're good people, but they're not financially rewarded for making ecological improvements. And the system is geared for and controlled by big pharma, big food, big agriculture. And so there's just no easy way to farm in the way we do now. Had we not started when we did, we wouldn't have been able to do it. I could not start today and accomplish what we accomplished. It happened. Our growth and the money that we made before big food uh, adopted or changed to fill the void.
And so you're saying now it's more difficult for a young Will Harris to make this transition, or it's even impossible?
Far more difficult. Far more, maybe impossible, far more difficult.
And none of them, I mean, the Qantas study was with General Mills. Like, have any of the big food companies have done anything serious with you in a sense, like have worked with you at all, or has it been none of that basically in their own, I was going to say little world, but big world?
No, in the cases of General Mills, they buy, I don't know how much it is, maybe $80,000 worth of beef a month, something like that, which is nice. I couldn't make it on that.
Mm-hmm.
If he would take 10 General Mills or 12 General Mills for me to make it on. And it's a very small percentage of what they buy, but they do give me a certain amount of support, and we're grateful for it. But I couldn't make it on it. I can't make it without consumers buying their own food direct from me.
And if you had a magic wand and could change one thing in the food and ag space overnight, what would it be?
It would be for consumers to choose, not have to, but choose to view their food consumption to their way of managing the land. They would say, I want the land managed in this manner, so I will buy my grass-fed beef or tomatoes or rice from this producer that's moving the needle in that direction. And I think we're a long way from that. I think we're so far from that.
Because of pricing, because of untransparency, what's the bottleneck there?
Well, I guess the answer is yes, because
to all of them.
Because of pricing, because of greenwashing, because of this is the difficulty. And we're not producing much food. We're probably one of the largest grass-fed meat producers in the country, and we produce $20-something million worth of product a year. That's I can't feed one medium-sized city, and we're one of the biggest ones. So it's just not enough of us, and the difficulty in becoming one of us is harder and harder.
And is there a role? I mean, you're mentioning it's difficult to finance like the debt side of things. Like, are the banks you're working with, are they even interested in what you're doing, or are you like a weird farmer to them? Not a normal one, of course, but definitely a different one. Like, how is that relationship with the debt side of things? You said we own 100% of the equity, so there are no other people on the cap table, let's say. But on the debt side, is it tricky because you're different, or for other reasons?
Yeah, I mean, my bankers are good people. They're good friends of mine, but they're not really interested in what I do. They're interested in getting paid back. They are in the business of lending somebody else's money to me and others like me. And if the amount of interest they can get from me merits the risk of doing business with me, then they'll do business with me. If I didn't have equity in land, I couldn't operate. Simply stated.
And so, what happened with the solar piece? I think it's relatively recent. What made you move into that space, and just for people to understand, how does it look like? What are you doing with solar? I mean, you're doing a lot with solar energy, but mostly through grasses and plants. What else are you doing with solar?
So we the solar voltaic is what we're talking about here. So the solar voltaic is new to us, about 3 years old. Land is cheap here compared to most areas of the country. So we're attracting a lot of large industrial solar voltaic systems. And one friend of mine sold his farm, large chunk of land, to a solar voltaic company. And then we knew they were going to build a solar infrastructure on it. So we approached them about controlling the vegetation using our sheep instead of what I'd seen so much other done with lawn mowers and herbicide sprays. And kind of a long story, but really caught traction. Really got the very senior, in fact, the CEO down, and he liked what we said we were going to do. And we're now on 3 different arrays in this area, and going to do another one. It's really turned out very well for us and the solar company. I think they're very proud of the way we're managing their vegetation. They use it a lot in their promotion and advertisement. And we're very proud of what we're doing for the land. The land's getting better and better.
And with the idea of when the solar, I don't know, it has a 20-year time or something to grow more food there, or like it's actually ideal under the shade, let's say, of the panels to grow grass. Like there's sort of mini trees or big trees, basically. Is it almost a silver pasture system?
Yes, very, very, very much like a silver pasture system. I've been increasingly, I thought that when we went into it, and I'm increasingly believe that. I'm not saying that it's better than a natural silver pasture system. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's available to me, and it's better than spraying with herbicides. which is what they were doing previously. It's less than perfect, but the sum of the food we're producing and the energy they are producing is pretty damn good. So I think it's not as ecologically pleasing as a beautiful silver pasture system, but a heck of a lot better than the peanut, cotton, corn that was producing before they put the system in. This was not, they didn't clear up a beautiful silver pasture system. They took degraded land that's been in industrial, agricultural, peanut, cotton, corn production all my life. I'm 69 years old, and it's been in that industrial farming system, damaging system all my life.
So this is a good healing period for the land.
I think it's healing. I do. In fact, and we're doing tests on it. So we were beneficiaries of a grant from the Department of Energy that we're just getting into, $1.7 million, I think, dollar grant that Silicon Ranch is actually the beneficiary of, but we're participating in it. And we hope that we're going to show the ecological benefit through that grant of what we're doing there.
And like for the company, the solar company, is it, I'm not saying cheaper, but better I'm imagining they're paying you a fee for, or I hope at least, fee for grazing and like your service of keeping the grass and the vegetation or the clovers, etc., at bay compared to spraying and lawn mowing? Like how does those costs compare? Is it similar? Is it actually way cheaper, or what should I imagine? And is there a barrier for others to do the same?
No, I don't think we're saving them any money. I think that we're probably not costing them any money. I think they're paying me about what they would normally pay to have a chemical, mechanical,
killing machine,
vegetation management done. And by the way, we do some mowing. We're during this transitional period, we still got a lot of big weeds coming that we have to mow. But we mow less than they do in a system that's purely dependent upon mowing. And I think it'll be less and less and less as time goes on. Remains to be seen. This is very much an experiment. We're in the third year on the earliest that we've adapted, and in the third month on the most recent that we've adopted. So it's a work in progress.
Yeah, but fascinating to see. Yeah, the context of it's not perfect. We would love to see more panels on roofs, etc. But at the same time, giving the context of what the field was and what a normal and these big fields are popping up with solar panels, that the normal approach is way worse. So we're going for a non-perfect way, but a way better than what was before and what would have been otherwise.
So I am positive. I know enough about this. I am positive beyond a shadow of a doubt that what we're doing is going to be very beneficial to the land as compared to what the solar company has been doing previously, which is very intensive chemical use and very intensive mechanical mowing. And it's better than what the land was prior to the solar company buying it, which is corn, cotton, peanut production on a rotational basis, monocultural on a rotational basis. It's going to be better. Now, will it be as good as a virgin? No, but it'll be so much better than either one of the alternatives.
And as a final question, which almost never is the final question, but definitely inspired by John Kemp, who asks often in this podcast on what do you believe to be true about, he says normal agriculture, but in this case, I would like to ask it about regenerative. So what do you believe to be true about regenerative agriculture that others don't believe to be true? So where are you in our little bubble of regenerative farmers, etc.? Where are you different? Where do you think different?
Well, I know it's what we should be doing. I'm one of the guys who's been doing it longer than just about anybody else. They're the ones who've been doing it as long as I have are dying right and left. So I'm becoming increasingly senior these days. And it's not my goal, it's just what's happening. But we're not doing enough of it. I mean, it's so hard economically that we're just not doing enough of it. You know, we're going in the right direction, but there's too few of us, and it just needs more.
And it seems like changing the economic rules of the game would be taking away a huge barrier for that. Like it wouldn't change what you're doing practically on the ground, in the ground, etc. Just make it much more economically attractive to do.
Well, that's what needs to happen, and it's not very seemly coming from me, who would be a beneficiary of that. But the fact is, we are one of the very few people, practitioners, who have been able to afford to do it. A lot of people that started doing this with me 20 plus years ago aren't doing it anymore. You know, they fell along the wayside, and we could too.
Mm-hmm. One bad year. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
One bad year or one unfortunate whatever, and it's very fragile. Yeah.
Well, we not even a bad year. You know, the evolution of the business. You know, we were making our living selling product to Whole Foods Market, and that opportunity went away. They were still buying from it, but it wasn't profitable anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So we were lucky enough to step out of that lane, hopefully in time that we'll be able to be okay. I think we will be okay. Others have not, you know, and fallen by the wayside. And it's sad to see, but it happens. And excuse me, it's not just sad for the individual farmer that loses out financially. It's sad for the whole planet. You know, for everybody that eats and sleeps here.
Yeah, we need those pioneers that, despite the current economic system, have somehow made it work, and but at the same time focus on changing the rules, because that seems to be the massive limitation currently. Like you're not polluting, you're not producing all these other externalities, and you're not being benefited for it, or the rest is not paying for their externalities. I mean, there's two sides of that coin, which I mean feels like the main message here.
Well, I think if more people understood the truth, then there'd be more and more people finding ways to afford to eat the kind of stuff that we produce, allowing more and more people to be in it. I don't think there'll be we can't have a big change overnight, you know, in which everybody starts to eat food the way I produce it. A, they can't afford it, and B, I can't produce enough. I say the people like us. Yeah. But I think it could happen gradually over time, and I think it is happening. But I'm not sure that it's quick enough to provide what we need for it, to the benefit that we need. And
do you see the latest research into the nutrient density side of things, or the health benefits, or the health, let's say the quality, literally the quality of the food you produce compared to, and that's why you're so annoyed, of course, as well, when you're thrown into the same basket as industrial CAFO producers. But do you see, it feels very early, but it feels very promising as well. Like suddenly there's research coming out showing a lot of differences in the way you manage land, obviously, and animals also ended up in the way, or the quality of the food. Are you excited, interested, skeptic about that helping to unlock more consumer demand?
Yeah, I'm excited, interested, skeptic. I'm excited and interested in that. I think if people, I mean, I'm not a nutritionist, but you know, I truly believe that there's a nutritional difference in a carrot raised the way we raise it in our garden and one that's raised industrially. I ride by these fields and see these huge huge monocultures of carrots being produced and harvested with enormous equipment and sprayed, it seems like daily with something, and fed through the water, through the irrigation. I think there's a lot of difference in the carrots. That's not my area of expertise, but it just makes sense to me. There's a lot of difference in those carrots. If they start measuring for one or two nutrients in the carrot, do I think that the people fertilizing them can come up with some stuff to put in there to make it show up? Yeah. I mean, I got a lot of confidence in those people's ability to make it look like they want it. If the marketing people tell them they want to see more iron in there, they'll get more iron in there. There's just more to it than that. There's the way we consumers fit into the natural production system, and until that's met, then I don't know if we're really making much improvement or not.
Maybe even the word consumer shows the relationship we have. Like, we're there simply to consume, not to be part of that cycle at all.
Good point. That's a very good point.
And until that changes, I see interesting examples of that, but it's very early on. Yet it's probably crazy to think that the same value chain, and it's literally a chain, it's not a web, that created this mass and created a lot of abundance in terms of calories, but it's gonna also serve the part of the solution, which is gonna absorb it from people like you, and then somehow get it on our plate in a flavorful, quality, and also regenerative way. Like, it's gonna require a lot more than that you found out, obviously, over the last 25, 30 years, that you probably have to build quite a bit of yourself to be able to keep control and to make sure some of that margin, and hopefully more and more, is coming back to the farm.
Well, chain, not a web, is probably the most profound thing that's been said here today. That's what we have, a chain, and we need a web. Started out a web, it became a chain. It'll become a web again. I just don't know how much damage is going to be done in the process.
Yeah, I think it was Ethan Soloviev, one of the earliest podcasts we did a long time ago, that mentioned that, or somebody of Therogenesis. But anyway, it's a profound shift. I want to end it there. I think it's a perfect end to this conversation. I want to thank you, Will, so much to take some time out of your busy schedule. I think even I don't know if it's still a public holiday, but anyway, here it is. You had a very busy weekend, it sounded like, with a lot of food and a lot of people. So thank you so much for the work you do. Thank you for hanging in there. Let's hope the economic rules, or the rules of the game, start shifting and help people like you that, despite of all the odds, against the odds, made it this far.
Well, I hope enough people do.
Thank you so much for listening all the way to the end. For the show notes and links we discussed in this episode, check out our website, investinginregenerativeagriculture.com/posts. If you like this episode, why not share it with a friend or give us a rating on Apple Podcasts? That really helps. Thanks again, and see you next time.